My name's Stephanie Natu. I'm Associate Board Director and Business Director at Creative Brief. Welcome to another episode of the Agency Brand Leader interview series. Today we'll be interviewing the lovely Daisy Domenghini, who is the EMEA MD of VaynerMedia. So, tell us a little bit about your agency brand and your proposition.
So for us, the most important thing and our ultimate vision that guides us all is to be the greatest human-centric organisation, which sounds weird as a marketing agency. But alongside that, the desire is to ultimately disrupt the marketing industry.
What makes your agency brand unique in 3 words?
My 3 words would be attention, relevance, and business.
Why is it important to continue to build your agency brand?
So ultimately, it's the same as anything. If you want to stand out, if you want people to know who you are and what you do, you need to build that brand. You need to build in that same way we would go to our clients and help tell them, okay, you need to know who you are, what you stand for, how you're different in the market, what's your proposition, who's your core audiences, why, what are your products. All of those things encompass who you are as a brand and what you sell and what you do. And I think too often as marketers, we're the worst at building our own brand, right? It's always the afterthought. Like we have this conversation the whole time, like, Daisy, your profile on Creative Brief. And I was like, I know, we'll get to it. And I know. The irony is that I know.
Yes.
But it's really, really important because otherwise people won't know why they need to come to you versus Wunderman Thompson versus a We Are Social versus a Media Monks versus a Anomaly. All those things. Everyone out there today is pretty much saying the same thing. They're like, we're here for the future, we're future-proof your business. It's all the same stuff. So really understanding your market and having a distinct proposition is really, really important so people know exactly who you are, what they're going to get, and why they should come to you.
What is it that makes an agency brand strong?
Differentiation. I think it's a strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of your product. Like, what are your products? What are you selling? Why is it relevant? How is it going to help transform that client's business? It's a deep understanding of that business, the client's business. And I think for me, the big thing here is differentiation, ultimately. And we've spent a lot of time here at Vayner really investing in the products we have, really understanding the marketing landscape, and ultimately understanding what it takes to win today. Like, there's a lot of agencies who talk about, and hark back to what's been going on for donkey's years in the industry, the big TVC that won us the Cannes Gold Lion and XXX, and then they talk about the future, like the amount of conversations today on AI, and last year it was all NFTs, and you sit there going, it's almost like the latest shiny toys, but what people forget is where that relevance and attention is today. And what we've done a really, really good job here is productizing that and really finding a way to help our clients navigate through the very complex world of attention, which is more fragmented than ever, and helping them really be able to understand their consumers, where they are, the platforms they're on, and sort of build marketing in a relevant way for today.
And do you think there's like a difference between what was a good, strong agency brand 10 years ago to today? Are like the elements and the components slightly different?
I think fundamentally there are some basics which still hold true in terms of brand building, right? And I think we get lost in trying to make everything very complex. We've theorized a lot, and there are some truths to, behavioral economics, nudging, framing, all of those things still hold true. Your brand, the brand elements, what's your distinctive assets, how do you deploy them? Those are all completely true. The way they're deployed, the channels they're deployed in is what's causing problems because people aren't really understanding that. They're seeing it at worst as another channel to cut the same stuff down and put it through. Yeah. They're really not understanding the nuances and the possibilities and the art of possible within those channels. So I think, I think the marketing principles often are the truth. We've tried to package it up and made it incredibly complex. And ultimately, I'd say the number one thing about brand building and marketing is common sense. And common sense too often is forgotten in the boardroom.
Yeah. And applying that common sense, isn't it, to not only the client work, but also your agency brand and how you market yourself, isn't it?
Completely. And I think, going back to what we were saying earlier, around you've got to get this, where are your audience, where are the right places to talk to them, all of those kind of things. Actually, is it clear who we are? Is it clear what we stand for through what we're doing? And how is the multiple sums of what we're doing, building up to the brand we want to be known for? We talk a lot about this, and in the last year we've actually invested a lot in our comms team. And we've actually started to deploy our own model that we would put out to clients on our own internal ways of working. So really thinking about, what is our brand house? What are those communication pillars that we want to be known for? What are the audience cohorts that we want to go after? What is the right way to reach the cohorts? Whether that is thinking about its peers, its recruitment, it's the next gen of talent, versus its agencies, its CMOs, its production partners. So we think about all of those things and are now building our brand in that way. But a lot of that is, again, common sense, going, you can't expect that one thing is going to resonate with everyone. You and I aren't the same.
Yes.
We'll probably, if we looked at, this is Gen Z, this is 18 to 16, or whatever it is, here's your age. It's not 18 to 16. I wish that's my age. I wish that was my age. But, if you look at that and you go, that's broad blanket statement, yet the individuals underneath that are so unique, so different, that we need to be much clearer on being relevant to multiple target audiences and thinking about, there might be one broader statement, but find out what that is by building it up and finding out what those commonalities are, rather than guessing and assuming as well.
Which to me really sort of sums up your agency brand in many ways, when we've spent lots of time on the couch chatting. Which kind of leads to, what would be your number one tip to other agency senior leaders to help them build their agency brand?
So first thing is, know who you are. Spend time knowing who you are. Test it, put it out there. So I think too often we spend hours, and I've been stuck in these situations where at agencies we are very bad at articulating who we are and what we do and what we stand for. We're brilliant at it when it comes to our consumers, but we're rubbish at it. The amount of years I've spent in agency boardrooms discussing our propositions, the words on our website back in the day, it should be on social media nowadays, and going, is that right? Well, actually, I think future-proof. Yes, future-proof. Let's go for that. That sounds really different. Then you go to a conference and you listen to every single agency, and every single agency introduces themselves with exactly the same buzzwords, and you just kind of die a death because you just know that it's all wallpaper in the end. So I think it's spending time really understanding who you are, what you stand for, but putting it out there and seeing what's resonating is the most important thing before you just sign it off and leave it. And also being honest enough to know that the world evolves. You as marketers should be constantly evolving. So ultimately, who you are today should look very different in 5 years' time. Otherwise, you're not doing a good enough job. So you need to leave enough room within your brand to grow, to flex, and to be able to grow as the world grows around you.
What are your plans for the rest of the year to continue to build your brand?
So I think it was, like a lot of people in the industry, the first half of this year has been crazy. And I think it continues with economic uncertainty, wars going on, energy crisis. The world coming into 2023 was a bleak place, right? We're sitting here now with, ridiculous heat across Europe, climate change, noise bubbling through. And it's a lot to keep people motivated. So a lot of the first half of this year was just making sure our people were okay. And as part of that, some clients came, some clients went, but there was shoots of hope. There's been really, really strong growth this last part of the year. And growth in the right way for us. Like, we know that we're not for everyone. We know that it takes a certain type of marketeer to want to come and work with us. And because we have specific ways of working, and we've tried to explain them, we've spoken about them a lot. We are very much from the consumer up. We try to remove the layers of subjectivity, and the volume of work we're getting out on a daily basis is quite overwhelming for some clients. But the ones we've got coming through the door now are showing us and validating that our model is working. And I hope that for the rest of this year, we've got a really healthy pipeline. We're going to continue to develop in that, which is going to help elevate our people, is going to give them some really exciting opportunities to learn, to develop, so that we head into 2024 in a really good space. like many marketers and many agency leads right now, with focus is very much on finish off this year as best we can, but really drive that growth now into 2024.
And is there, Daisy, a specific, maybe like a marketing or a specific initiative that you'll be doing to help build the agency brand?
So it splits into multiple different things. So I think one is continuing to double down, as I said, on that framework of what messages are resonating with our audiences, why. So we're heading into 2024 planning at the moment. There's lots of different tasks we put out to the various parts of the business to kind of bring information to the table to make sure that we're being successful. A lot of it is learning from what we've done. What is working? What isn't working? You know, where do we need to be? What are the conversations we need to be having in? Like, I think at worst, our name is deceptive as VaynerMedia. People see us as just a media agency. We're not. We are creative and media under one roof, and that is our real sweet spot, which allows us, as I said, at the beginning, if I think about that business, it allows us to be held accountable to business results. You can't be held accountable to business results if you don't have media baked in. You just can't. So I think, for me, one of the big things is making sure we are doing a good enough job of really pushing who we are completely as that full agency and really resetting that.
How important are ESG frameworks when thinking about building and continuing to build your agency brand?
I think it's interesting because I think a lot about this. So when I hark back to sort of what I was saying about culture, Vayner, to be the greatest human-centered organisation, ESG frameworks have to be kind of at the heart of what you do. We are seeing that it is becoming increasingly competitive and hard to be considered by brands unless we have strong policies within this space. But the thing I hate about that and the word framework and policy is those become passive for me. They're not action orientated. Yes, there will be actions and goals that are put within those, but ultimately it should be about real change and positive impact. So when we created internally, we created community resource groups. The intent was not just to have an impact internally. The reason it's community is it's got to have that societal change. It's got to have that real sense of, we can go out as our Vaynoir team who are there to sort of educate and upskill and change the world when it comes to Black rights. And when it comes to Vaynabilities, making sure that every environment is as inclusive as it can be. We look at the actions we have, not just internally, but that impact it can have outside. So that's why we did a collaboration with Rise 365 last year. It's why we're working with the National Autistic Society. It's what we can do to change and make that world better. So I think too often they become boardroom targets that don't actually mean anything. And at worst, especially when it comes to sustainability, we talk about, if I heard the word offsetting one more time, tell me where all the forests are. Where are all the trees? Where's everything that everyone's been planting? Because I'm telling you now, if everyone was offsetting and that was actually happening in the way it would, we would have more trees here than buildings. And it's not. It's all pushing things around, other people buying other people's offsetting, and it's not actual true mass. Carbon offsetting should be the last thing you do. It shouldn't be the first thing you do. So I think there are things we need to do and change to move it from being just frameworks to being action orientated, to really change and drive change.